It's 7 o'clock. If everybody's ready to go, I'll unmute you.
I had.
Are we ready? Call the meeting to order. It's 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so everybody, microphone check.
Check.
Sounds good.
And we'll do the roll call, please.
Yes, Stratton, Merchant absent. Pelton and yes, Trumbull,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Rebant,
Here.
Milnick.
Here.
Set and adjust meeting agenda. I have one adjustment right off the bat, and that is that our next meeting will actually be a special meeting, August 17th at 6 p.m. And I'll talk more about that during my report. 6 p.m.? Yep. Any other changes?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we add to new business the two public hearing items that we have so we can discuss them. DOA 2026-05 and ZOA 2026-06.
Anything else? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make the motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Second, Sherman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, public comment. Oh, declaration of conflict of interest pertinent to agenda items.
No conflict.
None.
None.
None. Okay, public comment. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the PC. Public comments shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. There are 2 opportunities for public comment now and at the end of the meeting. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern and state his or her name and address. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's questions. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Scott, can you do the timing for me? In order to avoid unscheduled debates, the PC generally will not comment or respond to public comment. Silence or non-response from the PC should not be interpreted as disinterest. Would anybody, you will have a chance to speak regarding the 2 public hearings. So if you want to wait until then to make comments about that, or if you'd like to speak now, that's fine too.
Kim Angus. I wanted to bring up one item to the Planning Commission's attention. You had your special meeting in Elk Rapids. When the board held their meeting, we had approximately 125 people. When you had your meeting, you had about under 25 people. And that makes perfect sense. People can see where things are headed, and the board had already voted. What didn't make sense, and I know it's not necessarily within the Planning Commission's control, but I'm going to ask you to do what you can. This is the Elk Rapids News. The week prior, the newspaper prior to your public hearing. Pink box, pink box, pink box, pink box are all notices for Whitewater Township. Meeting minutes, special meetings, special board meetings. Your public hearing was not one of them, from what I can derive. So Whitewater Township had almost an entire page of the Elk Rapids News, but didn't post your meeting. Any reasonable person would think that the Elk Rapids News is our paper of record. When I was on the planning commission, we did officially select Elk Rapids News as our paper of record so that people knew where to find notices. If 75% of our notices are going in Elk Rapids News, and then you throw one in the Record Eagle, that is not keeping the public informed. That's hiding a notice. I'm not accusing the planning commission of doing that, but I am asking the planning commission to do what they can. Even if you had to have an earlier notice in the Record Eagle to make a date, there is nothing that stops this township from also informing the public by putting it in the Elk Rapids News. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, then we will move on to the public hearing. The public hearing for ZOA 2026-05 amendments to Article 13 special uses and Article 5 supplemental development standards and provisions. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:06. The date the public hearing was noticed in the Traverse City Eagle was July 18th. That is our paper of record. That's what I've been told. So I believe we have to do something to change that, right? With the clerk. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so the purpose of the public
Sorry,
hearing.
Green, sorry, before you go further, we need a motion to open.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing for ZOA 2026-05?
I'll make that motion, Melnick.
Second,
Second, Trumbull.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The purpose of the public hearing and brief introductory presentation will be done by Andy Ahmet. Andy, are you out there?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Do you want me to jump right into the quick little summary? Just letting everybody know where we're at here with this proposed text amendment.
Yes, please.
Great. So yeah, we've been discussing this a couple meetings now. This specific use specific requirements amendment for Article 5. So what we're doing here is we're moving the existing section 13.17, which is kind of buried in a way under the special land use section article of the zoning ordinance, to Article 5, which is the supplemental development standards and provisions for kind of general uses for use specific instances. This is the area where there are regulations regulating a use. So we're just moving this language from 13.17 to Article 5. In doing so, we did add a little preamble-like statement at the beginning of each subsection. So for example, the proposed section 5.09 home occupations, we added a little preamble statement that leads into the regulations that states home occupations shall be divided into two classes: minor and major home occupations. Minor or major home occupations, such uses, whether permitted by right or by special use as applicable, shall comply with the requirements as follows. We added a similar statement to 5.13 bed and breakfast establishments that says that these uses that this section is applicable whether the uses are permitted by right or by special land use. Sexually oriented businesses, 5.14, that says that these regulations are required whether permitted by right or by special land use. And the same goes with the very last part, I believe, I'm just scrolling here, commercial campgrounds, that these regulations are required whether permitted by right or by special land use. So really, that was the only text change we made to this text. We corrected a couple typos as well. There was a There's just a line that stated permanent cabins. There was nothing else to it. It just said permanent cabins, so we deleted that. There was also this was discussed very early in the zoning amendment process, but there was a reference to an annual permit for administrative review by the zoning administrator. It's been discussed that that's not like a thing in the system anywhere, so that's something we deleted as well. Um, so really that was all we did for the amendment here. I hope that helps describe it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So the wording, except for the the things that you added, like to 515, all commercial campgrounds, whether permitted by right, is all as it is existing in the zoning ordinance. I would just want to make sure this is clear to everyone.
Correct. Yep,
And-
correct. It's just being applied to them by right or by special land use now.
Right. And then we are going to be reviewing the actual wording at a later date, correct?
Correct. I think the plan was to actually think about policy changes that make sense for per the master plan and per recent just staying up to date at a different bundle later in the process. So we may visit this again later.
Okay, and I think just to make a note, under 515, we removed permanent cabins, but I think we will need to take a look at that when we get back into the meat of this, in a future meeting.
Sure, yeah, you
kinda
may want to
keep
draft
track
some
of that.
regulations for permanent cabins, but that line was just sitting there with
Right.
really no reference to anything else.
And then Article 13, special uses, 13.17 was completely deleted.
Yep. And nothing has been changed since last meeting's packet as well in terms of the text. So just what you've seen in the previous meeting is exactly what you're seeing tonight.
I do want to make clear that we received no correspondence regarding this hearing. Okay, so then, do I need a motion to open public comment?
You're in
No.
public hearing now.
Okay. All right. If anybody would like to speak from the audience regarding zoning ordinance amendment 2026-05 amendments to Article 13 and Article 5, please approach the lectern.
Or against.
I'm not worried about that at this meeting. So either way, thank you for asking. No one?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. Yeah.
Um, waiting for segments. Kim Mangus, township resident. I just wanted to really applaud the planning commission. I know how much work these take. Even with a planner, it's a lot of material to digest and to work through. I know that especially because we were doing it without a planner. But what you're doing in our commercial district is a long time coming, specifically the removal of the COPUD and simplifying our system to something that is more functional, where everyone is being held to the same standards, the same expectations, the same setbacks. It is a significant improvement in our ordinance. And also I wanted to thank you for making sure that you did reach out to the local businesses, beyond just here's your flyer, hope it didn't get lost in the mail, and making sure that they were aware of what was going on and that their property was being rezoned. There was only 4 of them, but it was perfectly appropriate to do that. So congratulations, you did a good job on this one. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just for clarity's sake, I think that those comments might have been for the
The next-
next one, not
Yeah,
this one.
that's okay. Yeah, so we are doing this as two separate hearings. So the one on the hearing on Article 6 will be direct right after this one is concluded. Pardon me?
Is that the case? Yeah. You're doing 5 and 6 separate?
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
yep.
For my records, was your comment regarding,
It was recurring.
Yeah.
thank you.
It's on the same.
And you can come up again if you want
I thought you were
during
doing
Article 6.
one public hearing.
No, we're doing two separate ones.
They're two separate amendments, so.
Right.
why?
Yeah. Okay, if there's no other public comment on amendments to Article 13 and Article 5, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Peltonen closes.
Second,
Second, Sherman.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so I'm closing the public hearing at 7:16 PM. And we will discuss later in the meeting. Okay, so now we've got public hearing ZOA 2026-06, which is repeal of Article 6 Corridor Overlay Planned Unit Development zoning district and rezoning of 4 properties along M72. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion, Melnick.
I'll second Stratton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay, so the public hearing notice was published in the Traverse City Eagle, Record Eagle on July 18th. And Andy will again give us the purpose of the hearing and a brief introductory presentation.
Great. Yep, thank you. For the COPUD amendment, this amendment to Article 6, this was a very thoroughly discussed process through the Planning Commission. We were going in the direction of, kind of revising an overlay for a while, and we developed language. And then in May and June, everyone decided that we should take the time to have some good, careful and uh, um, just productive public workshop sessions and listening sessions. So we had the public workshop regarding this potential amendment on July 1st, prior to the Planning Commission meeting, and then Planning Commission discussed it after that meeting, and Planning Commission's sentiment was that simply repealing the COPUD article, uh, deleting references to COPUD, and not going through with an overlay district at this point, and then rezoning the 4 COPUD properties to their adjacent zoning designation would really be the most beneficial action at this point, for the property owners along M72. So in our packet we identify those 4 properties. It's the one at M72 and Williamsburg Road, the southwest corner there that's currently zoned COPUD. That one will be rezoned to N1 industrial. The other 3 that are on M72, as laid out in the memo, will be rezoned to C1 commercial. We're just following the base district that they are adjacent to, so that we have one coordinated kind of district along M72 there. It'd be really unnecessary to and probably inappropriate to rezone these to anything else than what we have listed here. That's really that. So yeah, no more Article 6. That can just be rewritten as reserved for now. It's uh, I think the general direction was, yeah, to just simply repeal the COPUD to end the confusion. That way, any development here later just needs to follow conventional zoning. So the zoning of the district, and then they'd still need to follow certain site standards like parking and certain landscaping standards and whatnot as well. So happy to answer any questions you have on this one.
And we have not received any written comments for the public hearing on this topic. We may have in the past, but those were referred to in previous meetings. Okay, public comment. Anyone? So we're talking about the repeal of Article 6 and the rezoning.
My name is Carol Hocken. I'm a board member and director of operations for Acme Christian Thrift Store and Food Pantry, one of the properties affected by this. I'm also a property owner whose property actually falls within the COPUD at my home. So for me, I think this is good. I think that all the businesses should be follow the same zoning and not have extra requirements. Is there a pen? Oh, thank you. So I'm very much in favor of it, and I have talked to all of our board, and they feel it's good too. So thank you.
Carol. I have a
Yes, Rod.
question for you.
Yes.
It's a long time since we spoke.
Yeah, back in my planning commission and township clerk days,
Sure.
right?
I was caught off guard in the last discussion about COPUD and what I think was clearly a communication breakdown between Whitewater Township and the businesses. And I suspect and have heard that you guys were caught off guard. And is there a way to create some dialogue with Whitewater Township, especially in the planning area and the business district? To make sure that we're understanding the business. As I came into this, I remember distinctly with our master plan, we were hoping to set some direction of, improving some images as for the new businesses, and you guys got caught up in it. And
Actually, we bought the property in 2012, and it was Steve Zakrzyk's development that did. So we just kind of got it. But I do think that it's good. I think that having all of the businesses treated the same way and not have extra requirements, I think is a good thing. And that all occurred, since I was here when it happened, that all occurred when M72 had just gone through. It was just after the gas eruptions, and there was a lot of focus on that M72 corridor. So I don't think that back then that the Planning Commission or the Township Board or any of us really thought it through. It sounded good, but I had no idea that I was going to be within the 500 feet until we went to get a permit recently, and Deb said, you're in that. I'm going, really? So anyway, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Renee Savage. I'm the quilt shop on 72. And again, I thank you. And Randy, thank you particularly, and Denise for stopping and explaining a lot of the stuff for us. It really meant a lot to us that you would reach out and value our opinions. It meant a lot. So, and I appreciate what you're doing now too. So thank you.
My original comment stands.
Anyone else? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make the motion to close the public hearing.
And a second?
Second, Sherman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And I'm closing the public hearing at 7:25 PM. All right, approval of minutes of previous meeting. So we've got the special meeting on July 1st and the regular meeting on July 1st and the special meeting on July 22nd.
I have one comment on the July 1st minutes. Under the presentation of.
Yeah.
Yes, the 6 o'clock one.
Oh, the typo?
Well, yeah, the information is missing information. Presentation of information on Article 6,
What is that on page 1?
first page.
Page 36 of our packets.
Yes.
Could you specify that for me, Randy? Page 1 under.
Page.
Information.
Yeah, the eyes.
You see it?
Is that what you?
Well, that, and then, that wouldn't make it by itself, but under the second sentence, under that category, it says the current COPUD entitled M72 overlay proposal. I don't think that stuff in the parentheses belongs.
Delete the parentheses.
I think that would be more accurate. I don't know that we were talking about that at that point.
Oh, no, that's true. That's, yeah.
I mean, it's true we were, or.
No, it's true. We were talking about the current COPUD presenting some ambiguity, not the, and the overlay proposal.
So I think if you just remove the stuff in the parentheses, it'd be fine. No, spell check didn't get that. That's all I have.
Did anyone else have anything?
I had I'm sorry, the regular meeting.
Oh, okay, hold on a second. Let's
Oh,
let's
do you wanna-
finish this one first.
Okay, yeah, go through the meetings one by one and then when we get to mine. Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes with the amendments Randy stated, the typo and the correction on the current COPUD?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with changes.
I'll second that, Stratton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. All right, so now the regular meeting on July 1st.
I had one on page 3 of the regular meeting, July 1st. And that's just to change my comment from reference, the word referenced under unfinished business to inquired if, as clarifying the meaning,
So strike referenced and replace it with inquired?
inquired if,
Okay.
just, yeah.
Any other changes?
Oh,
Okay, can I have a motion to accept the July 1st regular meeting minutes with the change as amended?
I'll motion to accept the agenda or
The minute
the minutes
Yeah.
with the amended
for July 1st.
for
right?
July 1st.
Mhm. Regular meeting.
The regular meeting on July 1st, I motion that we accept the
Change.
language with the amended changes.
second Trumbull.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, and the minutes for the Wednesday, July 22nd special meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second Trumbull.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. All right. We had one correspondence regarding Article 22 sent by Lance Miller. Unfortunately, it was not sent to the email address in the with the public notice, so it wasn't received until the 23rd, the day after the meeting by the Planning Commission. And he was against the Article 22 violations amendment. All right, reports. Zoning administrator.
Good evening. I did send out my zoning report to everybody earlier today. I apologize for not getting it to you last week. Randy had made a comment at the last board meeting about my report not ending on the last day of the month, so I'm gonna try to do it as of the end of the month, just to make it easier, and it's just will have an impact. So between June 23rd and July 31st, there were 16 new land use permit applications. One was denied. It's becoming a very busy summer. There were 2 land divisions. One is pending. One was approved. There was a zoning board of appeal back on July 23rd that was approved on Island Lake. There will not be any, I don't have any ZBA appeals for the month of August. The code enforcement complaints closed are on the back sheet too, 4 of those, and that the Heidish trial that's scheduled for September 29th, 2026. Couple things I'm looking for. I know that the Planning Commission moved forward with a private roads ordinance. I've got probably 2 more that are coming. So, but I can't do anything with because we don't have a private roads ordinance. But just be aware that we have more private roads coming into our community without an ordinance. I haven't seen or heard anything about a stormwater ordinance. I know that it was kind of implied when we looked at AIS and did their site plan review, but that's another thing that needs to be evaluated. Dawn Coons had made a presentation to the township board about the land division ordinance and the changes that are coming in March of 27. And what the impacts of that are on the master plan and on the zoning ordinance. So I just want to keep that on your radar too. Any questions for me? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission Chair, that would be me. Let's see. So we are going to have a presentation by Kelly Sullivan with Epic MRA, and that will be on the results from the short-term rental survey. And that special meeting has been scheduled for August 17th at 6 p.m. at the right here, Township Hall. And I will talk a little bit more about that later. Randy?
Hey, Township Board, well, we've been busy with a number of things. First of all, the replacement of the assessor. I think many of you know that the assessor has resigned a few weeks ago, and we're busy trying to find a replacement. I've been working with Linda. involved in some of the interviews that have been going on, and will be an update on that probably next week at the 2 board meetings we have. Also, there's a replacement for the treasurer. As you know, the treasurer has resigned, and so ads have been out there and resumes coming in and so forth. So there's that. And I'm glad that Deb brought up the issue of the land division ordinance and the private road ordinance, because the land division ordinance was kind of pushed aside for a little bit as other things took some precedence, as well as the private road ordinance. But, well, actually, the land division ordinance, I did a brief presentation to the town board about the issues of land divisions versus complete condominium subdivisions or planned unit developments, and how that should all work. So there's been some progress on that. The private road ordinance was reviewed by the township attorney with some comments that have been made, and we've been going through those. So I would look for both of those issues to be front and center on the township board's agendas here in the next few months. There is a deadline, as Deb mentioned, with regard to the land division ordinance, as we discussed, that there's a need to make some decisions, or decisions are made for you, kind of is the way it works. So anyway, that's the township board.
Could we entice you to give your presentation here for us?
Oh, sure. I haven't. I could
On the land division?
Mhm.
next month.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The private road ordinance, is it on the agenda for the board yet?
Not yet. It had been proposed, and then this other agenda, there's been pretty heavy agendas lately, as you know.
But you've had the attorney review, so that's good.
We have, yes.
So the next step would be to get it on the town board agenda?
Yep.
Okay. ZBA represent,
Now,
oh, sorry.
both, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, both of those would have to go through public hearings yet.
Well, the both of them are general ordinances,
Okay.
and I'm not sure, we haven't discussed about the process going
Okay.
forward. It's been more about getting the ordinance changes lined up before we just talk about that.
Okay.
The planning commission has a small role in that though, right? In terms of like, do we want to
Yeah, that's
modify
that's
the,
part of the issue that needs to be kind of worked out here, is what is the role of the planning commission and the private road ordinance.
Okay.
That's yet not really been explored yet.
okay. Scott,
ZBA met on the 23rd of July for a variance regarding dock or deck section going down to the water on Island Lake. Through deliberation, we all approved it, so it was approved. You'll see some rewording on Article 20 in here. That we've reviewed and feel like we need to make some changes there.
Rod?
Okay, the work that we're doing on the ROWG, we're moving, however, collecting data. I was hoping, or we were hoping, that there would be more tracking abilities or spreadsheets throughout the various departments as to what assets they own. And it's a little disappointing that that doesn't exist in all of the pockets. So we're going to have to take a little deeper dive into it. I've made some contacts with East Bay Township, and I will with Acme shortly, that they also have the same accounting package that Whitewater Township has, which is called SBA. And both of those townships have a CIP, capital improvement program in place. So I want our team to learn a little bit about their methods of discovery and implementing or moving the data into BS&A accounting system. So we're at that point where it's getting a little more broad process, different avenues being pursued. However, we ended up splitting the team where two of the ROWG members are now working on the Parks and Rec, which is a big part of the entire inventory, and myself and another person is working on the buildings and also the cemetery, and the whole team's working on the fire department. And lastly, we have a study that was done for Whitewater Township a number of years ago by a contractor, CEA2, and they looked at a lot of the infrastructure and projects that were moving through Whitewater Township's approval process at the time. And they needed engineering help, they needed design help. And this group created a lot of documents that exist for the parks, the expansion that they did, the boat launch, the playgrounds, and some in the fire department, some in the water system that connects to the local school. So we need to go deeper into the CEA assessments and find that data and see if it was actually implemented in the various projects. So I'm feeling just a little uncomfortable right now with having this wrapped up by the end of December. However, we're going to, keep moving as well as we can, but we're still at the mercy of getting the data from the data owners, the department managers. And I think that's going to be our biggest problem in validating that the assets still exist and putting a price and putting a condition on it. So, that's the story. That's what we're working on.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any additional items? What's your report on? Okay. Unfinished business, amendment to Article 22 violations, section. Okay, so Randy and Linda and I had a Zoom meeting with the attorney this morning, and he gave us feedback on the modifications that we had, or amendments to the amendment. And so there is a new version, which you've been given a copy of, and there are copies for the audience if you'd like one over on the table. And so I'd like you to give me feedback on this. From the PC, I'd like feedback on the amended Article 22.
So the clarification of each day on which any violation designated it's a separate offense. That was the key that we had to.
Wanted to change it from shall to may.
Yeah.
But there are reasons that we don't want to
Yeah.
do that because shall protect, I've got 3 bullet points about this. Shall protects against unequal treatment. It prevents a statute of limitation. That whole sentence prevents a statute of limitation situation. So if a non-compliant, say, someone's built a garage in the side yard setback and it was built 10 years ago, this protects the township and allows them to come back and cite that non-compliance. And because it might not be discovered until somebody buys the property next door and has a survey done, for instance. So that protects us from, or it allows us the opportunity to try to get compliance in that situation, and then it prevents selective enforcement. So that's the idea behind this new each day on which any violation designated as a municipal civil infraction continues constitutes a separate offense and shall be subject to sanctions as a separate violation.
Okay.
Well, that's slightly different than having shall and may in there,
Right.
and that does say just it's subject to it, and of course, the operative point here is that it's the court that assigns the fines. It is not Whitewater Township, it's the court. And the attorney pointed out to us several times, I think, and not only the conversation just recently, but in previous ones, that it's important to not limit the court's ability to deal with circumstances. Again, it's the court. It was originally proposed that there be a local civil infractions bureau here, and that was original language that was taken away, and we're not large enough typically to make that work. We would be relying on the court system in Traverse City to administer this. And again, the point is not to encourage fines. We don't want fines. We want ordinance compliance, you know, and then I also, reflecting on some of the comments we heard at the public hearing, I think most of the comments were directed towards what the ordinance requires. And there were statements about being an HOA, you know, things like that were kind of out there, but colors of mailboxes, we don't have that here. And if there are flaws in our ordinances, the remedy is to fix the ordinance, you know, and not address the fines for it, and not, so anyway, I think this is a good change, and the step would be for the planning commission to send this to the township board for action, because this is, you know, the zoning amendments originate with the planning commission, and that's what they asked us to look at. We had our public hearing, we got our comments, and the next step would be to send to the township board.
Also, the not to exceed $500 is directly from the state of Michigan statute. So, and that again would be, that amount would be decided on by the court. It's not decided on by the person writing the ticket or by the township at all. And then there's the severability clause, which we thought was redundant, is included, but it's just for the actual process of accepting or recommending the amendment. It doesn't actually appear in the zoning ordinance because we already have a severability clause in the.
It's the ordinance that's amending the ordinance has its own severability clause, is the way it was explained, which is hard for people to get their heads around, including me, so.
Randy, follow-up question. The violations that can exist in Whitewater Township, you have general ordinances and then you have these zoning ordinances. Does this apply to general ordinance? Okay.
Yes, in fact, the town board made a number of motions at their first meeting in Elk Rapids to do that.
Okay.
But now in the zoning ordinance, at the very end, the enforcement violation, that's where it discusses the actual language here, where it makes it a criminal case. You'd be fined or imprisoned. You have to go to zoning jail for.
Okay.
2201.
So that will be amended as well as how you.
We're actually doing a zoning amendment is what we're doing, and we'll need to discuss.
They'll be in parallel then, so it's as if everything that is related to civil infraction will be cleaned up, as we know.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
so
great.
we're amending, it's actually a zoning amendment that
Yeah.
wipes out the 2201 and goes to the language you have here, the 2201
Yeah.
revised, and the nuisance language as well.
Thank you.
We should, I think at the meeting, there were a number of planning commission members that listed findings as well at the meeting. So that should accompany any decision that we make. I have some written up if you would want to share those, or you want to, or someone else can start if they want.
Did you have some, Denise, that you want to share? Findings of fact?
No, I'm good with this.
Okay. Randy, would you like to go ahead?
I'll read the findings as I see them, as one member of the planning commission, that we have to any amendment to the zoning ordinance has to follow what's in Article 21. And there's a list there of well, sorry, 2105, A through H. Not all of them are applicable to text amendments. Then this is a text amendment. So A is consistency with the goals and policies of the master plan. There are several bullets I have. The master plan speaks to the need for consistent and equitable zoning ordinance enforcement. That's on page 72 and 78. The master plan addresses dealing with blight conditions with clear enforceable regulations. That's also on page 78. Goal number 1E includes a need to eliminate junk and blight conditions in Whitewater Township. That's on page 80. Workshop participants address the need to address blight in Williamsburg, page 74. During the master plan open house, the need to encourage cleanup or containment of blighted or contaminated sites receive support. That's on page 66. Planning strategies include the need to update and enforce regulations pertaining to junk and blight conditions. That's on page 102. The second category is consistency with the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. The purpose of the zoning ordinance, section 102, includes promoting orderly development of the township, securing safety from fire and other dangers, protecting and enhancing property values, conserving public funds for public improvements, promoting economic progress of the township. Item E is that conditions have changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted, or there was an error in the ordinance that justifies the amendment. In Michigan, the municipal civil infractions law was passed in 1994. This was long after the Whitewater Township ordinance was first adopted in 1973. Prior to 1994, violation of a municipal ordinance was often a criminal misdemeanor offense. And F, that the amendment will not result in exclusionary zoning, and there's no exclusionary elements to this. Exclusionary zoning refers to if you're using zoning to exclude certain types of land uses in a community. I don't see how that has an effect in this, so
That's complete.
I think that's similar to what you said at the
Yeah.
meeting too.
Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
I support the language.
Brad?
Yes, and I support what I'm hearing, all the new ideas.
I'm in support.
You okay with me making the motion?
It's up to you.
I make a motion to approve proposed amendments to Article 22 based on the findings of fact that Randy has stated as related to section 21.05.
I second the motion.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Milnick,
Yes.
Rebant,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Trumbull,
Yes.
Elton, and yes. Merchant absent, Stratton.
Yes. Okay,
Sorry, that second was Rebant.
Remand.
Thank you.
wineries and cideries ordinance update. Andy, are you still there?
I am still here. I'm happy to just touch base on this memo that was provided to you. We actually chose, Chairperson Stratton and I chose that it's probably best to leave the language as is at this meeting. Don't push any new language onto your plate right now, just with so much going on. Just kind of revisit it, recap the discussion from last meeting, and see how you still feel about it a month later. Just again, with so much going on recently, we don't want to kind of gloss over anything that we don't feel super comfortable on. So I'm just going to touch base on this memo real quick. I hope the memo made sense to you. In that, on that first to second page, I have some bullet points about labeled July 1st, 2026. The Planning Commission discussed the draft amendment focusing on the following areas. So in the text starting on the third page of that memo, that text again is the same text you saw last meeting, and I highlighted kind of the key discussion points from last meeting that you all had. So really the first point there is that there was a desire to prohibits split zoned lots from being able to hold a winery, microbrewery, micro distillery, etc. with a tasting room. And that said lot should be entirely zoned A1 agricultural. I think that's a really easy fix. That's not going to take too much. So I definitely think that that's definitely possible to do pretty easily. The next point was a desire to consider that perhaps when there's contiguous likewise or like-owned parcels as part of one kind of what a lot of communities call zoning lot, that contiguous tract of land can be used to base the broader building calculation on. Again, I think that that's a pretty easy fix that we can do rather easily, depending on if we have the right terminology being used. Perhaps we need to add a definition for zoning lot into the zoning ordinance, but that's something that I think can be done easily. And then I think we can regulate pretty easily there in terms of that standard. And feel free to stop me at any of these points. I think those first two are rather straightforward, and I think they're easier fixes. I have not made those changes yet, though. The third
I do
point
have a
was,
question
of
on
course.
that. The 5D item let's see, item number 1. It talks about brand promotional events subject to the state liquor control code and administrative rules and orders are permitted to provide full service meals subject to the following additional requirements. There shall be no more than 3 events per month. And I'm struggling a little bit understanding what is normal, what is daily activity for one of these facilities, and what is promotional event or special event, because we are mentioning specific numbers of events that can be held. So I think it's important to have definitions in here so there's clarity as to what our intent is, and if there is failure to meet those requirements, that we can point back to the definitions.
Yeah, you make a very good point. And I totally agree with that. And that's one thing that I think is a work in progress. Last meeting, I did let everybody know too that I am still a little bit, I need to do a little bit more research, and I am still a little bit confused about the way brand promotional events is kind of it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of confused if it is indeed a kind of a administrative rule or order that's practice in the industry. And I'm having a hard time locating the
Yeah.
administrative rule or administrative order that governs these said brand promotional events. So I do think that this is definitely something that does need more research and or yeah, just more eyes on top of this. And I just did not have a ton of capacity to further that research in between last meeting and now. But I will try to make that a priority before next meeting. Um, I think in terms of when it references events, below that it would be those brand promotional events that it's referring to. But again, you make the point of, well, what exactly is this brand promotional event, and how does it differ that from perhaps a wedding event or a celebratory event that might be hosted at the tasting room. I believe Miss Merchant made the had a little bit of feedback on this point, and I believe her point was, and I hope I'm not speaking inaccurately for her, but I believe her point was that there's a little bit more um, permission to use kitchens for meals when there's a brand promotional event. So perhaps there is a little bit more meal serving being held on the premises than maybe what would be normally done during the tasting room's normal hours of operations. So I believe that was one distinguishment that one of the reasons we listed this here was that it is a way that these facilities can just serve a little bit more food when they're in conjunction with one of those events. But I do need to again confirm this via more detailed research.
Great, thank you.
And in just looking at the Michigan Liquor Control Commission regulations, if you just do a search for brand promotion events, it's to do with prevent another alcoholic beverage and their bar, maybe merchandise, their logos, their glasses, their napkins, or whatever. So I did speak with someone at uh, the the Liquor Commission that does enforcement, and they said that you would have to search possibly another word, do a different word search than brand promotional. It might be under food service or catering or something like that. I've done some of that research. I haven't quite found the wording, and because it's in ag, maybe MDARD has some regulations that allows it, but it's not under the Liquor Commission. So I'm not sure where to find it either.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very good feedback. I kind of the small research I did was along those same exact lines. I saw there
Yeah.
being a lot of reference to logos, to branding, to perhaps, apparel and whatnot being sold, but nothing really to do with like a hosting of an event with food
Yeah.
service and kitchen usage and things like that. So, um, yeah, I'm glad that what I saw was kind of also the limited amount. The limited amount I saw was also is corroborated a little bit by your research as well.
Yeah, it just
Um,
isn't much there.
yeah,
So,
so I think we need to, I agree. I think I need to search a little bit more, some other terminology and do some more reading, perhaps in terms of food service. I mean, so I guess in terms of your feedback, uh, in terms of your feedback, if we don't move forward with perhaps a brand promotional events type of kind of as written here, like kind of a not a loophole, but an allowance to allow for a certain bit of meals being served in conjunction with an event. I mean, would you be otherwise, if we can't do this because it just doesn't make sense per the state's rules and statute? Would you be okay with a limited number of meals being served, or do you not want meals in conjunction with the everyday operations of a tasting room? Or do you want to just keep it to more hors d'oeuvres and small plates?
Well, what are we allowing with the large events?
Large events can have catered, I believe catered and let me remind myself where we're at there. Um,
yeah, the catered events could have food service. You could bring in,
mhm.
that's a catering permit. So you could do that. The small plates is generally for a winery, because you want to make sure that uh, over 50% of your income is coming from the winery products of wine and cidery or whatever. You can't go over that for your food service, or you can't have a venue that serves alcohol and then have music, and people are coming more for the music than the beverage that you're providing. Yeah, there's
Mhm.
a rule along that line. So,
It sounds like the tasting room is where you want to have your definition of what kinds of meals or snacks or small plate is served. There's really two areas we're talking about here. There's a larger facility or outdoor facility, and then there's a tasting room.
Yeah, you have your tasting room and you'll see small plates, and a food truck.
Yeah.
People can go to the food truck and get a plated meal. Or you have the restaurant next door and you can call the restaurant next door and order your food, then go pick it up and bring it back and eat at the establishment that serves your drinks. But it's that line of monetary income. What are you getting most of your income from? You don't want to become a restaurant that serves some alcohol, because then you'd lose, you wouldn't be a winery anymore.
So with the large events, we're saying an occupancy of greater than 100. But with the promotional events, do we give a maximum number of people? I don't think so.
No, not for promotional events. So that's a good question too. That if we're saying that if we're spelling out a brand promotional events, do we want to limit that or are we okay with it?
Well, I guess I'm just yeah, and also I'm thinking about the commercial kitchen and the full meals when like you could have 99 people, right? Before you get bumped into the large event, which then you're apparently only doing catering.
Mhm.
So
I think I think the intent is to even for small events and large event. And sorry, we'll touch on this in a moment. I think there is there is a little bit of revision we need to do between distinguishing between that line, but I'll get to that in a moment. But I think in either case, I think the intent was to allow for catering at either a small or a large event, because a small event is just a wedding perhaps that is just small and a lot more intimate to the facility perhaps. Whereas a large event could be a larger wedding that has a little bit more accessory and outdoor and temporary nature structures being put up and whatnot. So we'll get to that in a moment, but I think the intent was to allow for both the small and large events to have catering. And the fact that other than that, food service in a regular manner with the tasting room is just supposed to be small plates. Um, so really, you make a good point though, is how do brand promotional events connect to the size thresholds as written? And I think my short answer to that is I think we're kind of thinking about revising these size thresholds due to some issues I'm going to talk about later, if that's okay.
I guess my point was just that, suddenly there's a commercial kitchen with the brand promotion. Whereas you wouldn't, I don't think that's a requirement for the larger events.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't otherwise spell out commercial kitchen as part of any other regulations here. That's really the only part we point out having in what instances are commercial kitchens permitted.
I mean, would it be a regulation to have things catered rather than using a commercial kitchen? If I
You
had one,
could,
I'd
I
want to have
think.
a commercial kitchen and make my own food.
I think we could put a subsection E here in under food service that just says catering is permitted in conjunction with the events of subsection D or something along those lines.
Yeah. I would say like the commercial kitchen, even in a small plate service, you need a place to make the charcuterie boards. You have all this food you're going to have opening up, and there's always food service regulations that you need to follow in terms of sanitation. Maybe that, but the commercial kitchen, even with a caterer, you need a place to plate. If you bring all the food in, you still need to plate the food. And you need a commercial kitchen for that, and all that kind of stuff.
Not necessarily. I mean, they do that in a tent at large events,
Or they have a buffet line, yeah, of some sort, yeah.
right?
But if you're doing depends on the type of event, I would think.
Right.
Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, this is all really good feedback. It's helpful. And I think I've got a little bit of action on those points. So that my next point, so we talked about that third bullet point of my memo, the brand promotional events. I think the next point was discussion about blanket occupancy caps and how this threshold could be problematic. So I know it was discussed in terms of those blanket occupancy caps of the small and large events. Small as written being the maximum of 100, and then large events being greater than 100. And I know it was brought up by a few planning commissioners, including Miss Merchant, that sometimes planning for this can be difficult and you don't always know how many people you're going to get until the people actually show up. Um,
Mhm.
do we have any feedback on that?
Well, in my mind, I think that's the key point is how many people are allowed, because as I've said before, it's not like we're dealing with a building with a fixed occupancy. Like we know how many people can fit in this building, you know how many parking spaces, you know, when you're dealing with tents and open space and whatever, it can be hundreds of people or 50 people. So that's where the key is. And to me, that's where the issue is with the rub with neighbors. And, you know, when traffic, you know, cars are parking on the side of the road, they're not there because there's overflow. You know, those are the kind of basic planning issues that I think, you know, need to be addressed. I get a little bit concerned when we get into drilling down into the types of events and whether it's a brand promotion or a wedding or a birthday party or whatever. I think it matters less to the area residents, you know, what kind of events going on is rather than it is the number and the noise. I mean, those are the operational issues in my mind that
A
are key.
typical winery, having worked in one, bases their occupancy obviously by the fire department. That's controlling. And the size of the parking lot, once they're filled,
That's it.
they don't let more people into the parking lot and they don't let cars park along the highway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not always true, but
Well,
yeah,
that's the underlying theme.
yeah, I agree. But yeah,
Yeah, those are very good points, and I think maybe I can just get to that next bullet point because it does kind of have a relation to this, and it was the fact that perhaps there was a desire by the planning commission to not move forward with the large events permitting, in terms of permitting individual large events. We provided that general code ordinance as an option, but I think your desire was to allow for administrative reviews process for those special or flexible events that perhaps are bigger in size, that where perhaps outdoor tents, equipment, overflow parking can be, are part of the large event, and that those would be approved perhaps by the zoning administrator and the fire department on a as needed basis rather than a township board approval, which would take longer hypothetically. Um, with this though, I think it's very important to maybe require a little bit more static or permanency in the site plans approval in the site plan that goes before planning commission for original approval. That way there's at least something that the zoning administrator and fire department's working on. So perhaps if there's an area that the applicant says may host large outdoor tent. They at least delineate that on a site plan so that, maybe it's not there all the time, but that's that area that they point to in their administrative large events permit through the zoning administrator and fire department that is where they will hold the tent or where they'll have the uh, blow up
Andy?
kids amusement
Andy?
device, or whatnot.
So you read my mind with what you just said. Because I thought we had a discussion about having like a tier one type event, which would be part of the original special use site submission.
Yeah.
And that if that party wanted to have a temporary area that would be used in conjunction with the full site plan, that we could consider that. And if it was appropriate, there would be a 10 area, appropriate parking, everything that we would be comfortable with, not coming to planning administrator for a special tier two event, which would be something above and beyond that was approved for the special use permit. So that's the way I thought we talked about it, Andy, and that's the way
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that works too. Um, would that be kind of three ways then? They follow one is they follow the original plan and they don't need any further approvals for any special event. Two, they ask for relief based on temporary things of temporary nature that can be approved by the zoning administrator and fire department that was maybe laid out in their original site plan as a future, temporary area. Or there's three, the top tier where perhaps it's something that they ask for so much that they need to take it back to the planning commission. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
If it doesn't comply with a special use permitted temporary tent area or temporary event area, then they would have to come to the administrator. And I think anybody that had that kind of use in mind would submit that with their special use permit in applying for a cidery or winery.
Yeah,
And
to
if
begin
someone-
with. Yeah.
Yeah, to begin with.
Yeah.
And if someone didn't do that originally, and then they said, well, we want a tent, they could go for an amendment on their site plan for their existing special use to add an amended. That was a tier one. But tier two would always have to come in front of an administrator if it was anything above and beyond what the site we felt would support on a regular sort of use temporarily. That all makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, but would you maybe want that tier two though to go in front of you again if it's something that's really going above and beyond
No,
what
that
their
would go in
original
front of
approval?
that would be like a special permit
From the town board.
from the town board.
Okay.
Go before the town board.
Yeah.
Well, we would need a special events ordinance then, but which we don't have. But
So if they stayed within the approved site plan through special use and they got approved as a cidery, they could put up the smaller tent that the site supports and we all agree is fine. Without restriction, I guess. But if it's beyond that, they would have to go through a special permit through whatever appropriate means for a formal event that.
yeah, so you may want to have the fire chief looking at that particularly. You may want to make sure there's adequate sanitation out there. You might, those kind of concerns.
Would you be going with the occupancy level of the building, or are you talking like 100, like this number 100 or lower?
I think it's
Lower?
site dependent to me. And I think that what you just said, I think we would, again, I like the idea of having an early submittal. That's a preliminary submittal. Staff looks at, give feedback. Maybe if they're asking for the special temporary use within their special use permit, you ask the fire chief to look at it. You look anybody, maybe the health department, I don't know, but whoever would be appropriate to review it, get feedback, they would hone their design and then maybe get internal feedback from us before it even comes to us. I mean, that's the way normally it works. And then once they present, they should have their ducks in order, and there shouldn't be anything outside the boundaries other than maybe have a discussion and maybe we table it and they have another opportunity. But they have to meet us. Again, I've said this a lot of times, if it's a special use permit, that is a high bar. It should take a lot of process and a lot of eyes and a lot of feedback and a lot of amendments, red lines to get to a point where you meet the criteria where we would consider approving a special use permit. And the answer to your question is, I don't know the answer. Certain sites might appropriately support 100 people, but if it's a hilly site and the cars couldn't navigate it, it might not. That's why special use permits are so important, because they're all unique, they're custom. And some of them support certain things more and some of them don't. And that's where the give and take comes.
Michael, as I follow what you're saying, I like how you've presented it. At some point, you get too big and you're going to stay big because
Yep.
it's working. So at some point, there's a jumping off point, I think, from the program that is presented to us. And maybe that follows a commercial property avenue at that point.
Well, I think that's the special designation is part of the new language, which is winery and cideries, and that's within a certain size. So we're
Well,
defining.
it's been limited to the agricultural district, but we've also
Mhm.
had some discussion about, having
Commercial
those in
district.
commercial zones, which would be on 72 or someplace, and
Mhm.
there the restrictions fall away, I think, for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's a
Some of the
commercial.
applicants, they might not, their sites might not support any kind of secondary, temporary. type.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, that's, and when we're working on this, I'm always thinking of other districts where people might want to have an outdoor event or eventually like a festival. And I have to keep in mind those other events that other people may want to have in their district and whether we'll allow it. And we have to have an ordinance that covers, all of those. So an outdoor venue, I know it's wanted in the commercial district. It's been asked for. We haven't addressed that. So
So could we, as a condition of the approval of the site plan, have a maximum occupancy based on what they're showing us, like where the tent would be located and the number of additional parking places that they'd be able to provide?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maximum like tier 1 event.
Yeah.
Maximum people.
all based with within the setbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Based on the size of the property, location of the property.
And the fire
You
chief.
did have the foresight to amend your site plan review process to require the fire department to give a preliminary review on all site plans that are going in front of you. So they will be looking at all future site plans and special uses on a preliminary level before it hits your desk, and that could be their time to give a recommendation
Mhm.
of capacity,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But doesn't the tier 2 activities kind of relate to something that's unique and special when it might be?
I think
large
they would
number of
need to
people?
re-review. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fire department would need to re-review if the tier 2 is still within the bounds of what they believe is safe, and if they've accommodated for, perhaps slightly extra capacity because of extra tents or, planned events on the premises. So I think they'd get a chance to look at it again at that moment.
And that's like a site plan amendment, right? Which we would have the. fire
Well,
Get, no?
no, that would go to
I'm-
the board, right?
Yeah. The
I'm
board.
still a little
More of
bit.
permit.
Oh,
That's the way I see it, right? The
So-
tier 2 is more of a permit, correct?
That's the way I would see it.
okay.
Yeah.
So but the most efficient way for somebody coming in, who wants to set up a winery would be to have all of that information on the site plan that they show us at that first meeting, right? Because then they don't have to do the tier 2
Correct.
unless something unusual occurs.
Correct.
So,
I was applying, I try to get the biggest tier 1 I could get.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point.
And then if you have a special event, then you gotta do some, you gotta go to the board and you gotta pull a permit and
Right.
they may or may not issue that,
Okay,
but it wouldn't be
Yeah,
under our
so-
purview.
right.
I want an
Are-
off our desk. I don't wanna deal with tier 2
Yeah.
events.
There's another side of this is I think we're trying to encourage the farming community to use an option like this to hold on to their property. If we really allow mega event centers, I think that tends to shut out the opportunity for the smaller farmer who wants to participate too. So, yeah, there's a little struggle here in my mind of, throwing everything at one or two or three, I don't know what the number would be, who get really big and nobody else can enter the opportunity.
Yeah, the interesting part, as I thought about this, is that you could do an event. You wouldn't have to get a permit through the liquor commission or anything if you didn't serve alcohol. But you could do an event that, just call it a mocktail, and people that don't drink, they would enjoy that. And you wouldn't even have to come to the, so, I mean, if you want to avoid some regulation, that's the way to do it. It's, but the other point I'd like to make is that it does say at least 30 days prior to the intended event is to have the fire department come out, because they need to know not just, what you're doing and how you're doing it, but they also, if they have to do staffing. So if there's 3 big events on one weekend, they really have to get they have to get their staff in order, and you have to give them time to do that. You just can't come in the week before and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to need, this is what we're doing. So that there has to be at least some lead time, and we could ask the fire chief how long in advance he would need to get his staffing.
I agree with that with the tier 2 event,
Yeah.
something larger than what was approved.
And then that tiered 1 event is what, I don't know if you want to go with the number, what is a tier 1 up to a certain level.
Yeah, what we were just discussing, it would be per site review.
Yeah, which means,
So that might vary from place to
Yeah.
place.
Correct.
You might have, it might be 51 locations,
It's site-
Yeah, someone
it's
with
site
tons of land,
specific.
yeah.
Can't get that out. Okay,
Yeah, I think I've got some good feedback from you on where we need to go. Just for a point of clarity, are you kind of thinking there's kind of a base? So there's a base approval, then there's tier 1, then there's tier 2. Is that kind of what we're thinking? So the base approval is you got approved to have permanent structures, and you can have an event inside the permanent tasting room that is at no other really noticeable or observable um condition, with no other observable conditions, I think, to surrounding properties. That would be maybe the base event, or kind of the tier 0. That's kind of your starting point. Then, but they could, on their special land use and site plan, delineate an area that says, area for future temporary tents, or areas for future food truck, or area for overflow parking of around 20 cars, or something like that, where then they go before the zoning administrator and fire department for that small, just tier 1 increase, which is an administrative permit. Then the tier 2 is the township board full on approval for a very much out of their original scope, in a way, one-time event. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I don't believe that there's the temporary area would be part of the smaller temporary area that's suitable for a site would be part of the special use permit. You would
Part of the original, so part of the base.
Yeah, it's part of the base. You either have a temporary you want or you don't.
right.
And you want a temporary, you better have an area that supports it within the site plan approval, the special use of permit. So if you get that approved, you have that forever. And then you only have to go to administration for the tier 2 for a permit.
Okay.
So does the applicant propose the maximum number of people on the tier 1?
Yeah, that's what I think you do. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay,
Comprehensive submittal showing,
so they say our tier 1 is 50 people, and
Right.
Whatever, and whatever the number is, and that's what
Yep.
we look at, see if that makes sense or not. We can approve it, we can
Parking
approve.
supports it, everything.
Yeah, okay,
Mike, you mentioned temporary permit or temporary approval.
it's more of a temporary, it's it's within the group of buildings, but it's not always there necessarily. You put up a tent, but you've been approved under the special use permit to put a certain size tent with the appropriate parking that's designated, ingress, egress. After the fire chief gives us consultation, says this is appropriate, we agree it's appropriate. And then they always have that tent location, that smaller tent with the smaller outdoor use, but they might not always use it.
Right.
But if they want to use it, they can just do it. They don't have to go to the administrator.
The permit would be permanent.
It would be part of the special use.
Yeah.
It would be,
Okay.
but it'd be a temporary tent or temporary
Yeah.
outdoor.
The site can be flexible in how it meets its need then.
Yes.
Right.
But when they got it on the special use, they'd have to put that tent in a specific location.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have to have a specific parking areas, specific ingress egress. It would all have to be very comfortable for us to approve that special use. They just might not always use it.
Mhm.
Now, they might always just have a tent, which they could do.
Oh, I thought we had a limit on how long the tent can be up.
48 hours, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay, well, maybe not.
They can propose that though, and
Right.
we can see if that makes sense or
True.
not. And,
Right.
if there's neighbors are close by, concerns are raised, then maybe not.
Okay, have we given you enough, Andy?
I think so. Yeah, I think you've really thought this over, and I was kind of I am in line with this thinking. One final question I think on the tier one though is when an applicant does want to utilize some of that temporary flexible space is what we're going to kind of call it. Does the zoning administrator and the fire department need to give a sign off on each individual layout, or are you okay with just the utilization of it as long as it's in they could maybe give a violation if it's outside the bounds of that temporary
Correct,
flex
yes.
space, but
Yes.
they're not giving. Okay, all
Because
right, I think
the fire department will have already reviewed it as well as the
Yeah.
zoning administrator
Yeah.
and the planning commission.
It has to conform,
Okay.
their use has to conform with the special use permit
Right.
issued.
Conditions.
yeah, okay,
And then the wording on like the base tier, I think you could just use like every day,
yeah,
common every day, rather than
Mhm.
using base.
yeah, we'll think about a good term there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
gonna move on if everybody's okay with
Yep.
that.
Good.
All right, the short-term rental survey concluded at the beginning of July, and they received 475 usable responses, and by that I mean if they have lists as to how many people were in a household, and they could go in and see if somebody was, kind of stuffing the box or whatever, and I don't think much of that happened at all, but so at the August 17th special meeting, which will begin at 6 p.m. And will be located here unless we discover we need to do it elsewhere. Kelly Sullivan from Epic MRA will be here in person to give the presentation of the results.
So that would be live streamed, right? So people would be able to,
It'll be on YouTube.
right?
Yeah,
Okay, so if people didn't want to come here, they could
Mhm.
watch it at home.
right.
if they want.
Right. And we'll also be setting up an additional monitor so that the audience can see, since this is not very viewable from the seats.
Assuming we build this facility, could we be shut down?
If we're over 60, yes.
Okay,
I think the public made it very clear that we should do that.
We should do what?
Move it to another location if this place fills up.
We would have to reschedule the meeting though. Yeah, we can't hold another place and move the
Correct.
meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the quandary. Yeah. Any other questions on that? I would try to schedule it as a joint meeting, but the town board has a lot on their plate as we do, so we weren't
We have
able to come
Two
up with-
meetings next week alone. So did we discuss whether residents will be able to ask questions of Kelly?
No, we haven't discussed that.
Okay, I mean, I was just wondering if a resident was just interested in seeing the results, they could easily do it from home and watch it on YouTube.
Well, so there's always the opportunity to, so do you mean after they've seen the presentation or?
Oh, yeah, I did. Are we going to have question and answer with the PC as?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure with the PC. I would say if somebody's watching it online, they could certainly send in, they could email a question after they've seen the slideshow
On the spot
presentation.
there, I didn't know if we,
Yeah, I mean, if there's a point that they definitely want to make sure is covered before they see the presentation, they can certainly send us an email. And and I can ask that question of Kelly when he's here. And then if they have something after the fact that they feel wasn't clear, I can certainly get clarification from Kelly afterwards.
that might be helpful in terms of managing the room size, because then people
Mm.
could be able to watch it from
Mm.
home and still be able to ask a question as though they were here.
It wouldn't be in real time though, right?
Are you talking about a chat room? Questions where people can go into the chat room and ask a question, and then you could read them.
I was not talking about that, but maybe Randy is.
I'm lost at YouTube after that.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't allow any back and forth, right, Joe?
Oh. Oh,
Do you
okay.
have a suggestion for how we might receive questions or comments?
It's pretty difficult to do
Yeah.
with the public like that if you don't have them on Zoom. Because YouTube is just where they can watch it, so.
So in that meeting, we would not have any public comment at the beginning and at the conclusion?
No, we could still have public comment. That's not a problem. It's just that public comment is pretty much just for the people that are in the audience.
Right. Right.
And this is just a presentation. We'll be having the open
Right.
house
Right.
next month, and they can bring their questions to that.
Right.
When you say open house this month,
I'll have Reen address.
No,
that.
not this month. No, it'll probably be in September.
Yeah,
Because he's
next.
speaking to us August 17th.
is
So
that workshop?
yeah, so what we're thinking is that, the current thinking, and this could change, is that we would have a workshop once we've got sort of a draft of an ordinance created and get feedback on that from the public at the workshop. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Are we
So-
drafting the ordinance before the workshop so they have something to
I-
look at?
I think so, yeah. That's
So at the
goal.
next meeting, we would do that,
Right.
next
We'd be
regular
looking
meeting.
at that, the September meeting, but we'd already have the workshop scheduled for at some point in
Okay.
September.
So that,
Mhm.
and do you have a location, or we don't know do you have a location for a workshop or?
Well, I think we'd probably be back at the school. I think the reason that we went to the Hearth for the Article 22 is that it's easier to kind of conduct a meeting in that
Mhm.
situation than it is at the school.
Yeah.
But I think a workshop is fine at the school.
So do you want me, because it's, the dates are limited at the school, do you want me to like check into available dates so we have something? And we
Yeah,
can
that
talk
would be
later
great.
about what weeks that you would like to work with.
Mhm.
Denise, we
Good.
school.
Yeah, Mill Creek Academy.
Thanks.
I don't like putting you on the spot here.
I feel very on the spot right now.
Sorry.
You're doing great, though. You're doing great.
Okay, so we have the presentation by the vendor. We have public comment, we have comment. And at that point, do we then move into building an ordinance after that? Or after the workshop?
So,
Well-
go ahead.
I was gonna say, we should have a discussion about some consulting support or legal support as we look at that,
Yeah,
rather than, having the planning commission itself write the ordinance, which will be, I mean, we can do it, but it'd be better if there were some support like we have with Andy or legal support. I don't know what direction you want to go.
Right. Right, and hopefully the goal is that we would have a draft of an ordinance, and that would be what we'd be working on with the workshop.
I'd be afraid of that because it feels like we would be rushing. I mean, and then that becomes the focus of the workshop. You know, everybody's going to take shots at it.
Oh, sure, but that's going to happen either way, right?
Well, yeah, but I'd like a little more thought time and discussion before we run into a workshop.
So we
because we-
need to hold the workshop before people left for the winter, since we held the first workshop in January.
Well, I think maybe we should revisit that.
Oh, and not be concerned about that?
Well, I wouldn't say not be concerned, but this is a big one. This is a lot of discussion, pros and cons and all of that. We would likely bring in expertise to help us sort through some of what we're learning. And we also have the other ordinances that are trying to get through the queue. And it just seems very aggressive. And I'd like it to be, a little more planning and response time between now and September.
So I think the point was just to bring this up and give us some thought right now in terms of. you know,
Okay, all right. And that's fine. I just,
Yeah, this
Better
is
get
just-
my
this is like
part.
an outline of a plan, and if we decide that we can't do September, that's totally fine. right?
okay. Yeah, I think it's important to give the community, our best shot here.
I agree.
And our schedule should be discussed and, part of their plans too. So,
Yeah, I do want to make sure that the people that leave town have an opportunity. The Zoom was a little difficult to work with at the workshop. I say a little, that's probably an understatement. So, we'd want to have we'd want to think about some format that the people that are not able to attend in person would be able to give us feedback.
Yeah.
So-
Do you think that the workshop should be done before we do a draft? Would that make, because we're getting public input on the feedback on the survey, but it just seems like we're not moving forward, I guess is the way I would look at it.
Maybe we should see how conclusive the survey results are.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
I mean, if it's,
Yeah, it might make it really easy.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
to see what it says and.
yeah.
So I'd still like to have some idea of
Some dates.
availability at the school, whether it happens in September or not. That doesn't cost us anything to find out what kind of dates we'd be looking at. And then we can discuss it further after the presentation in
I'll
terms
bring
of
some dates
what
to
our
the-
next steps should be.
Okay.
What are you thinking, Randy?
I think we let this play out a little bit, but it's good to have a discussion now about what people think.
Yeah. So there are next steps that, that we have in mind.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay.
Yep,
It's okay to have a plan.
it is.
Even if we have to, set it aside.
Yep.
Okay,
So we're still having the meeting here then for this next week, 17th, and I guess residents, hopefully this room is big enough.
yeah.
I would also encourage residents to watch it. I mean, if they want.
How do we get that word out?
There are a couple of people that would probably put the word out in the community.
Mm,
Well, there'll also be, because it's a special meeting, we'll have to do the public notice and it's already noticed.
It's in the box.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can talk to Wendy about getting something in the Elk Rapids News.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we had under new business, let's go ahead and look at the zoning ordinance amendment 2026-05. So discussion, and we need to decide if we're gonna make a motion or not on that, if we're not ready.
That's Article 5
Article 5 and
and
the
13.
right.
Okay. I am comfortable with sending it to the board as is. So I don't know if we made any changes at all, but if any changes or amendments. But
Well, I think the important change that we made was to add the introduction to those several topics that say that it could be a special use, or it could be a permitted use. You know, I'm not sure if that's the case right now, but as we go back through and later on do a review of what's permitted in each zoning district, it could very well have some uses, the special use in some districts and a permitted use in others. So that language that Andy put together is helpful, and that was the reason for the hesitation in the first place. So, I mean, I'm comfortable moving forward with it too. Do you have some findings on that? That we should do the same thing with the findings, if you're inclined to do that?
Yes. I just had the, geez, sorry, this has gone to sleep. Hold on a second.
I don't know if other members, what other members feel about this.
Pardon me?
I don't know how other members feel about moving forward with it. I support it. Sounds like Denise does.
you can,
Yeah, I support moving forward.
Rod,
Yeah, I think it's good work.
Michael?
Support it.
I just have one question. Andy, are you still there? Did he leave?
I am still here. I know that there's still another item on the agenda that I'll discuss
Yeah.
with you. Yep.
Right. So with regard to the revisiting Article 5, what's the timeline on that? Is that part of our next bundle, or how far off is that? Or do
We
not
do
have-
need, sorry about that. We do need to do some planning of the next bundle, and I think we just definitely need to take some time in terms of starting that bundle. I think we just have a lot of still left on our plate right now to finish up before we start that next bundle, and that's just my opinion and my recommendation. Um, I can go over the bundles with you, perhaps just the plan, perhaps at an upcoming meeting, in terms of what topics we should address.
Okay.
And at that meeting, maybe you can also provide any feedback and verification on if the bundle seems appropriate. Is it coherent? Is it uh enough? Is it too much? And kind of what needs to be added to that. But I do think we need to just get through wineries and the existing tasks first is my recommendation.
I'm fine moving forward on it as well. I'm trying to find
Just
original.
findings as well.
I mean, definitely the clarification, which is of the zoning ordinance. Which is goal 1A on page 78. Have a clear and well-organized Whitewater Township zoning ordinance, improve the clarity of the existing zoning ordinance so that requirements and standards are clear. That was, for me, that was the main finding,
Yes.
since we're not going into the detailed wording. So it'd be, the criteria would be consistency with the goals, policies, and objectives of the township's master plan and any sub-area plans.
because we're not changing the body of the wording at all, that would,
Right.
That would go with well organized.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we need more than that? Do you think?
No, there's no rezoning involved, so there's no,
Right.
some of those conditions don't apply. We just mentioned the consistency. I think we can prepare something here. The conditions have changed. Maybe somewhat. Okay. I think those are probably adequate findings for something as simple as this amendment, which is only a few sentences and
Right.
moving sections from one to another.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take a stab at the motion. I move that we submit zoning ordinance amendment 2026-05 amendments to Article 13 special uses and Article 5 supplemental development standards and provisions based on the findings previously stated for approval to the Township Board. Can I have a second?
I second the motion. Reband.
Roll call vote?
Yes. Rebant,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Trumbull,
Yes.
Pelton, and yes, Merch, absent, Stratton,
Yes.
Milnick.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. All right, and the next topic is zoning ordinance amendment 2026-06. Amendments to, or repeal of Article 6 corridor overlay planned unit development, zoning district and rezoning of 4 properties along M72.
And I do have some findings prepared
Right.
for that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so not beginning with consistency with the master plan, the Whitewater Township master plan was adopted in 2025. The proposed amendments are consistent with this plan with respect to the following considerations. The M72 corridor is identified as being important both locally and regionally on pages 33 through 44. In particular, M72 corridor is a place where attributes can, or with attributes that can provide jobs and tax base for the larger region on page 86. Residents desire new commercial development to occur along M72 in the village of Williamsburg on page 60, and they favor some development standards such as landscaping, science control, mixed uses, smaller building footprints. See, there is support for an M72 corridor plan with the new MPO, page 74. Goal 4D specifically identifies the need to manage access to adjacent property as development occurs. This potentially includes topics such as future signals, roundabout access, roads, turn lanes, etc. The existing COPUD district has been found to have many shortcomings during planning commission meetings that took place between October 2025 and August 2026. Result was the conclusion that the COPUD should be eliminated and the 4 parcels previously rezoned to COPUD should revert back to original zoning. While some of the discussions took place about creating an overlay district, it was decided that such steps should be deferred until a corridor plan is completed. This would allow requirements to better align with specific planning objectives. The master plan identifies 2 relevant central planning principles which need to respect the rights of property owners and build a sense of community on pages 72 and 73. Some specific steps in this direction include the need to improve regulations along 72, the development process in Article 5 and 13. The master plan addresses the need to encourage economic opportunities. The master plan links this principle to the MEDC's RRC program and a specific need for clear zoning regulations and predictable, efficient development review process, page 75. Now, consistency with respect to the ordinance, the purpose of the Whitewater zoning ordinance is described in section 102. It's consistent with all 8 purposes, specifically eliminating the COPUD, promoting the township's economic progress, and promoting and enhancing property values as supported by proposed updates to development process related provisions. These updates clearly add clarity to development standards and review processes. See the capability of the road system to safely and efficiently accommodate traffic. The existing properties that are rezoned are already developed. None of the 4 properties have proposed expansion or redevelopment projects under consideration, and therefore no additional traffic generation is expected. D, the capacity of the township's utilities and services. The existing properties that are to be rezoned are already developed. None of the 4 properties have proposed expansion projects. There's no additional demands on utilities or services. Conditions have changed since the ordinance was adopted. The Whitewater Township zoning was adopted in the 1970s. Many conditions have changed, including the evolution of best land use practices for planned developments and general increase in growth pressures across the region. And then the amendment will not be expected to create exclusionary zoning. Again, there's no proposed improvements or proposed changes that affect that. And the last two are if rezoning is requested, compatibility with the site's physical, geological, and hydrological attributes. The 4 sites are compatible in terms of the fact that they're both developed. And finally, if proposed rezoning is requested, the compatibility of all potential uses in a district with surrounding, and that's found to be compatible. I do want to add too, that just the clarity on this. At a previous meeting, it was mentioned that the COPUD was intended to be an optional development opportunity for somebody. And I've no doubt that that was the intention. However, the word optional is not in chapter, whatever it is. Yeah, it was not in Article 6, so it can't be, you can't have it both ways. You can't say it's optional, but then not have it described optional. And what's striking to me is that there's a whole list of development standards that are in Article 6 that were never applied. And apparently they were just ignored and selectively enforced or whatever. So I don't know. So it's a good idea to get rid of this and get our train back on track and then start again with some planning. I think that would help us get some consensus around what the standards should be and engage the residents and business owners in some thoughtful questions and decisions about what M72 looks like. So.
When I look at the map over here, there are still some of those split zones on the one like Ginnups. Ginnups has a split zoning at the very back where it's got a small section that is ag. Is that full property and that full parcel number also going to be all commercial? Is that something that can be done in this motion as well? I think Heights is okay, and I think the other two are all right as well. It's just the Ginnups. That the full parcel would need to be commercial rather than keeping it split zone, part of it commercial and part of it ag.
I think there are maps in the material that was.
I was wondering.
Which address is that?
I think she said Ginnups, not Ginnups, Ginnups, yeah. Yeah, we didn't address it in the split parcels along 72 in this amendment. But we haven't, we're going to come back to this and.
Is that this order? Where?
It's not in there because it's not one of the parcels that we were including.
I think we should deal with just the parcels identified here for the purposes, and we can come back to those.
Okay.
When we discuss it at the next go round.
I appreciate the point, but I think
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we're talking about at this point.
I'm not either.
Yeah. That we had split parcels in commercial that were commercial on the front of 72, but the back side of their parcel was part ag. And we did not include that in this discussion at all. So
Okay.
it needs to be another day.
We need to address that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not as part of this motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts Scott, any thoughts you want to share on the repeal of Article 6 and the rezoning?
Just looking at the Ginnups thing. No, I support it.
Rod?
I support it.
I support it.
Yes.
Yes. Support.
Okay. All right, so does anybody else want to make the motion or shall I? One prepared?
You're doing great.
I'm on a roll, okay. I make a motion that the meeting on zoning ordinance amendment 2026-06, repeal of Article 6, corridor overlay planned unit development, zoning district and rezoning of 4 properties along M72, 8434 East M72 to N1, 8925 East M72 to C1, 8995 East M72 to C1, and 940 and 9036 East M72 to C1. Where was I? That we recommend that, approval. Oh my gosh. After all of that,
The rezonings and
approval of the rezonings and the repeal of Article 6 to the town board. Not my
Second,
best.
Trumbull.
Thanks, Scott. Roll call vote.
Yes. Sherman,
Yes.
Rebant,
Yes.
Milnick,
yes,
Stratton,
Yes.
Merchant absent, Pelton and yes. Trumbull.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Reen, if I could, it's me over here, just go over with you the last 3 specific addresses.
Okay. 8925 East M72 would be zone C1. 8995 East M72 would be zone C1. And there's 2 addresses on this one, 940 and 9036 East M72 would be rezoned C1. You want me to do it again?
940 and 9406.
9036. So 9040 and 9036 East M72.
9040 and 9406.
Nope. 9036 is the second one.
All right.
You want to read it back to me?
Yeah, but first I'd like you to read me back that last one, which is the
9040 and 9036 East M72 will be rezoned C1.
okay. And the first one was 8434 East M72 to N1.
N is in Nancy 1.
Correct. Okay. And yes, I'd like to read back those properties, addresses. The second one is 8925 East M72 to C1. The next one is 8995 East M72 to C1. The last one is 9040 and 9036 East M72 to C1.
Correct.
So there's actually 5 addresses, but they're 4 properties.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. And I got the rest of the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Amendment to Article 20 Zoning Board of Appeals. This is an introduction. Scott's going to go over this with us.
So this was brought to our attention with the ZBA as we were going through some of the stuff. Just wasn't wasn't making sense. So we decided to go over it, and the highlighted are the edits that we've added to it. And we are recommending that this goes to legal to get viewed by legal and give comments back.
Does anybody have any questions for Scott?
I'd like to say I read it and digested it all, but
Right, there's-
there's
Yeah.
a lot there.
A lot. I will agree. And we went through this as a ZBA together, with every edit that was put in here.
I thought the majority of these were, I didn't find anything that I thought was a problem, and I thought the majority of them definitely clarified um, what it requires to get a variance. In particular, B4, there are practical difficulties on the site which unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose without presenting an excessive burden and practical difficulty, which does not result from any act of the applicant or their predecessors. So that's kind of a big one. You can't just come in and say,
Right,
it's not my fault, so it's a hardship.
correct.
So,
This is also language that an attorney is very important with.
Yes, definitely need legal review of this.
Yeah, I mean, certain things may seem intuitively right and they say no.
Correct.
Correct. No, that seems fair, but it's.
Yeah, like, right.
It's not legal.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Do you know when this was created? This must have been a long time ago.
This was original wording, I believe.
Is it really?
1972.
I believe so.
okay.
Did a
So-
good job back then.
So you'll bring it back to us after you've received attorney review?
Correct.
Okay.
So is Wendy gonna request that or we need,
I'll contact Wendy.
Okay.
Let her know that we're in agreement for legal review.
Excuse me, for the purpose of the minutes, are you all okay if I put, there was PC consensus to forward this to the township board, or I'm sorry, to legal?
Yes.
To legal.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next piece of new business is, I'd like to just, kind of get it on our radar. And that's the introduction to amendment of Article 1 moratoria. So currently, our zoning ordinance has, I believe, no language referring to moratoria. And a moratorium is, in a township context, generally means the pause of considering and issuing some permit for a time period to study and potentially adopt new regulations for a particular topic. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that there's some concern about data centers, and so after speaking with the attorney, the most efficient way to go about this is to create an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would allow the town board to by resolution create a moratorium. So this would just be general. And just gives them the power to then create a specific moratorium, such as on data centers, for instance. So Andy has put together some more information for us, and I'll let him speak to that.
Yep, and I think that was a good introduction, Chairperson Stratton. I think you covered really it for the most part. We think it's the proper way to do this. We think that this strategy is the proper way to enact a moratorium. We believe that due to that case law, there's been case law moratoria in the state, considerably. The Rollingwood homeowners versus City of Flint just upheld that the imposition of a reasonable and short moratorium enacted by a resolution um, is allowed, and that the township may enact further moratorium by resolution on a particular issue when that issue is actively under study, when it is needed for a general health, safety, or welfare purpose in the community. So this just sets the infrastructure for the township board to be able to act quickly on perhaps setting a moratorium at a future date. And I think it's the more thorough way to address moratoria rather than maybe a one-off resolution by a township board, which might not have legal stand, might not stand legally if challenged.
So for instance, Garfield Township is their planning commission just proposed consideration of a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance, which will establish a new section, moratorium by resolution. The proposed section will allow by resolution the township board to impose a temporary moratorium on the review or issuance of any applications, permits, rezonings, licenses, or approvals for existing, new, or emerging land uses in the township. And that's the big concern, is that things are changing so quickly that we want to have something in place that would allow us to basically give ourselves, the town board would be giving us time to do the research required to create an ordinance, for instance, on data centers. I'm using that because it's kind of the top of everyone's mind right now. So, and Andy, maybe you can correct me on this, but my understanding is that the general or police power ordinance has to be modified as well?
I am
before
not sure about
adopt.
that.
Okay,
If there's permits that are, or licenses that the township issues, that are perhaps in conjunction with a zoning approval of some sort, then yes, that probably would be something the township board should consider. But if really if the township's only way of, I guess, permitting a use or a business is through its zoning ordinance, then you probably only need to do it through zoning. But we can
Okay.
discuss that with the township attorney.
okay.
And yeah, I've also got some sample language in Bruce Township, Michigan, which is a township in Macomb County that our team has worked on rather recently that is very similar to that Garfield Township. So I think we have some good model language we can present next meeting.
Okay,
Great.
yeah.
Okay. So our next meeting will be our special meeting on August 17th at 6 PM. And it's scheduled to be held here. And then the September meeting is September 9th. So at this point, we will open public comment.
Before you,
Didn't we vote on that? I thought we did. In unfinished business, we voted on it.
I sent a text.
let me look. I was looking at the notes of Randy's edition, but it was about the two public hearings for discussion, but let me,
Yeah.
Yeah,
can I just verify that?
and our next meeting will be on September 9th at 7 PM. We'll just put the 7
Right, our next regular meeting.
at 7 PM.
So it should
But
be, it should
makes
be,
it a special meeting.
pardon me?
It makes a special meeting though, because the date is changed. It would have normally been the 2nd.
It's on our calendar as the 9th, I
We
believe.
did,
right.
we did that at the beginning of the year. We changed it to the 9th.
At the beginning of the year, I think.
Okay.
Do you have a conflict?
No,
Yeah.
I had changed that when it was discussed. I didn't know
Yeah,
it was formally changed, so my bad. But yes, it will be then. Let me just check unfinished business to make sure.
Right, so it's item 13A.
But I will make a note under meetings that, of the date, because people are used to the 1st.
Right.
They might not remember that. Okay, I'm there.
I believe we did a roll call vote, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
We did indeed.
Okay.
Sorry, they.
It's okay. There's a lot
Several
going
things ran together, so thanks for clarifying.
Okay, public comment. Same rules apply as at the beginning of the meeting.
Good evening, I'm Tim Lederer, Heights Machinery. You folks have done a tremendous job here by your understanding of the importance of M72. Runs right through your front door, and you've cleaned it up. Good job.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Lederer, could you spell your last name for me?
Lederer.
And Heights, like normal spelling?
8434 M72.
Just the normal spelling on the word heights? Thank you.
Mike Jacobson, Williamsburg, Michigan. I know this is out of you guys' control, but I think you have the ability to pass it forward to whoever is in control of it. And I'm asking again, can something please be done about the website? Tonight, I wasn't particularly gonna come down here. So I asked my wife to look up the agenda for tonight. And she could find the agenda for every meeting but tonight's on the website. Now, I know that we are not computer geniuses. Okay, we're not young, we didn't grow up on a computer. But watching her frustration, trying to find some information for me, is very painful at times. So please pass the word forward to whoever is in control to please fix the problem. Not all of us are in tune with this computer world.
Can I ask
Every-
you a question?
Yeah,
Are you looking at it, are you trying to find it when you're looking on a phone or on a laptop?
she's looking at her phone.
Yeah, you're right. It's not set up for mobile viewing, that's for sure.
Not everybody in the world owns a computer.
Yeah. Right.
So
You have to scroll all the way down to
Pe-
find it.
stuff is put on paper for hundreds of years and it works just fine. I have no desire to step into the computer world and be frustrated like I watch my wife do. So, secondly, I liked Rod's comments about slowing down and taking your time to do it, to think things through and do it the best you can for the community. Sometimes it feels like issues that the board or the planning commission wants to get through right away are rushed through, and then other issues are slowed way down and like put on the back burner somehow sometimes. I like the mentality of let's take our time and do them all right. I agreed with that and I really like that. And thirdly, I like to talk about respect just a little bit. I'm gonna mention this because in some of these bigger meetings that we have in other buildings, a lot of the crowd says things to me like they don't feel like they're being respected. And tonight was a perfect example of that. Nobody in this room could take the respect to correct this gentleman on the computer that it's not Miss Merchant, it's Mrs. Merchant. You weren't even taking care of your own. Can you see how the public doesn't feel like you're respecting them when you won't even treat your own with the kind of respect of, excuse me, sir, it's Mrs. Merchant. And I'll use my own self as an example of this. I was pronouncing Reen's name incorrectly at one time. And as soon as I realized what I was doing, at the next opportunity, I stood up and corrected myself and apologized for it. It's a simple matter of respect. Thank you for your time and your energy. I think you did a good job tonight.
Like,
Kim Mangus, Brownberry Lane. Back to the noticing, I understand that it is under the purview of the clerk. But it does create a lot of confusion when most things are posted in Elk Rapids. And then I'm not stating this is the intent, but the impression has been given that anything you don't want someone to know about goes into Elk Rapids, or goes into the Record Eagle. So if we want you to see it, it's in Elk Rapids, and if we don't want you to see it, it goes in the Record Eagle. So some consistency would go a long way to also feeling like there's open communication and an intent to make sure that the public is aware. So I appreciate that. The Planning Commission can encourage the clerk that those notices need to be where most people will see them, and most people will see them in the Elk Rapids News. Additionally, I want to back up what Mike said about the website. I know there's a new website in the works. But I got phone calls. I'm not on the board or the PC, and I was getting phone calls this month from people on a PC trying to find it. And I just wanted to add a little bit of additional information. Part of that is because whoever is posting to the website posts, there's a meeting on the front page. And it clicks only to the top of the agenda. It does not connect to the agenda packet. Having special meeting connect to the actual meeting packet would really, really help. It's not that complicated to do a link. It would add one more step to whoever's posting, but it would go a long way to helping folks if it actually linked over from the special meeting post on the first page to the actual packet, not just the agenda. Because folks are only getting the first page. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, you're looking confused.
No, I'm just, I guess I've never tried to do it that way. So I
Once you're used to it, you automatic, I know I go to the top corner, I drop down to planning commission, go to plan commission, go to packets. Okay, it shouldn't take 8 steps, but especially if you're looking for a new topic or it's someone who's coming to it new, you go to the front page of the website and it says special meeting Thursday, and you click on it and it tells you it's at 6 o'clock, and it doesn't give you the packet. And folks who aren't used to it cannot figure out how to navigate through all the steps to find where it's buried. I know it's on there, but
yeah.
that simple link might really help, especially new users.
So the only issue with, and I don't mean to turn this into a debate or anything, but the only issue with that is that the notice goes up before the packet is ready. The packet's ready the week before the meeting.
But usually when people are looking at it is when you get closer to the meeting. So when the packet's available, if it actually linked through to the packet, I think even adding another button below the meeting notice, full packet here, would really help, especially those who don't, pull this up once a week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any PC discussion on anything? What haven't we covered?
I don't have anything.
All right, continuing education, I included some information that Deb had given me about, where is it? It's the last page of the packet anyways, about was it Eagle?
Eagle webinar? Is that what?
Very last page.
Yeah,
For grants,
right.
shovel ready?
Okay, so if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that, Stratton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you so much. and Thank
Meeting.
you for coming.